So what you just witnessed was how the stakeholders involved in this situation discussed their perspective on the matter. They discussed their interests, their rights, their duties, and their virtues. What I'm going to summarize for you are some of the main conflicts in those frames. Webster Health Systems as an organization has an interest in rehabbing and maintaining a tenured employee, but also has an interest in ensuring a high-performance work environment. Patrick, as the employee, has a right to have the progressive discipline plan applied. However, Richard, the manager, has a right to have a high-performing team. Richard, the manager, has a duty to ensure that his team is productive and that the workload is balanced. But he also has a duty in ensuring compliance to corporate policy. And Cheryl has the responsibility for ensuring corporate integrity and compliance to law, but also has the responsibility of ensuring the best interest of the corporation is considered, as well as its employees. Using the Hartman's ethical business model designed to ensure personal integrity and social responsibility, what you've heard here is the fact that an ethical issue does exist. You've heard the stakeholders discuss the facts around the case. You've also heard some of the stakeholders' moral point of view. What you're now going to see is how Cheryl leads her group in considering the alternatives, the consequences to all stakeholders, in helping her team come to a solution that they can all support.
Okay, John, I reviewed Patrick's file, I've reviewed our policies and the law, and I've got an approach to recommend.
Okay, great.
Well, first of all, we can't legally fire Patrick. I agree his absences are problematic, and he has something going on, but Webster can't make him fix the problem. We can provide the resources to help him, and we can make it clear that his behavior isn't acceptable. Therefore, I'm recommending that we begin the progressive discipline policy, that we have Richard sit down with him and give him a verbal warning about the excessive absenteeism.
Okay, now we go into the structure piece. How does this not come across to Patrick like he's just being set up to be fired?
Well, I understand your concerns, first of all. I want to help Patrick too. If I were benevolent empress, I would just stick him in therapy or rehab or whatever it takes. But we don't know what's going on. Whatever it is, Patrick has to want to fix it himself. So given that, we should also have Richard refer him to EAP and mention some of the other resources that are available to him.
All right. And I just want you to know, I plan on being with Richard when he delivers this. There will be any more random talk about alcohol.
Exactly.
Okay. What if it doesn't work? What if Patrick, refuses to follow this process and doesn't want to use the resources?
Well, that's his choice, but if he continues to be unreliable, we go to the next step in progressive discipline, which is to give him a written warning. And at that point, I would probably recommend that we audit the quality of his work, because if the guy can't show up for work half the time, it's worth seeing what he's doing when he is at work.
Okay. I know what Richard's going to ask me. What does he do when he smells alcohol again?
Well, if it comes to that, I'll talk to my boss about alcohol testing, but there has to be probable cause, and Richard's lone opinion isn't going to be sufficient for that.
Okay, I'll play the other side. What if Patrick says yes, says he does have some kind of problem and he needs some time away?
Okay, well then he's entitled to take it. We'll give him the first warning, the verbal warning, and if he chooses to leave under FMLA, we leave him alone for that. Listen, if he's an alcoholic, he's covered, whether he's drinking or not. If he needs time off for rehab or therapy, he gets it. But if he doesn't take time off for that, he still has to show up for work just like everybody else.
Thank you, Michelle. I can live with this. This is far better than sending somebody away that's been for 12 years.
And a lot cheaper than replacing him. Okay, so let's talk about Richard now.
That's a good idea. I realize he put us in incredible jeopardy with this talk about alcohol use.
Yeah, it was incredibly unprofessional, and in addition, he exacerbated the problem when he didn't talk to you about progressive discipline in the first place.
You're right, and after we deal with the immediate issues, I will be pulling aside here, talking through all of the components of our policies, progressive discipline, EAP, and most importantly, his role and responsibilities with that work.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea, John.
Using a utilitarian and deontological decision-making frame. What you saw was how Cheryl led her team in identifying the social and moral principles, as well as about identifying a solution that has the greatest benefit to the greater number of people. What they arrived at was a recommendation to execute to their progressive discipline plan, but also make sure that Patrick understands the resources that are available to him. They are also recommending that they coach Richard on how to handle situations like this in the future. As I mentioned earlier, Richard's conduct in accusing Patrick without having the facts about having an alcohol-related issue is certainly a big concern in this case. Illinois, while Illinois is an at-will employment state, the laws clearly state that it is illegal to terminate an employee without following the corporate policies and procedures. The American Disability Act of 1990 does apply here. This act was designed to protect those with mental and physical disabilities and their ability to function within society. This act takes effect when a physical or mental impairment is stated, if it is shown, and if it's perceived. Certainly, Webster wants to avoid any further legal issues in this situation, and they certainly want to protect their reputation as a health service provider. For the Employees Assistance Program, 65 to 80% of those associates who seek professional help for a personal issue can return to a normal productive work life. While corporations cannot enforce that an employee goes and seeks professional help, by offering an employee assistance program as part of their benefit package, by complying with laws, and certainly staying true to their corporate values, they can protect their corporate reputation, they can reduce the costs associated with replacing good employees, and they can retain their investment in corporate assets.
Thank you. So now we wanted to take a little time to discuss with you some of the key questions we feel surround the Webster Health case. In particular, we want to look a little more closely at the nuances that surround ethical decision-making models and how they factor into our final recommendation and decision. So if you look at your green paper, which has our executive summary, at the bottom of that are key questions. So the first one surrounds the Hartman decision-making model, and particularly focuses on the key facts and how important it is to make sure you have all the information up front so you're not making biased decisions. So we want to talk a little bit through with you what facts, when you were reading the case and seeing our presentation here, did you feel like were missing from the case in order to be able to make the most fully informed decision? And what assumptions did we have to make in order to be able to come up with a recommendation? So anything jump out at you right away that you thought was a fact that was missing when you read it?
Well, it was kind of along the lines of Maggie's comment. There was nothing in here about, they talked about Patrick's performance initially was very good, but there really wasn't anything about his current performance level. When he was there, was he actually working or not? And, so Maggie did point that out, but I noticed that when I was reading about it, going, okay.
Very good. We didn't have any information about how his suspected alcoholism or his absenteeism was affecting the work that he was doing.
I was surprised too that nobody sat him down and asked him what's going on.
Yeah. And along those lines, one of the things we noticed was, we don't know what his reaction was to being accused of being an alcoholic. We don't know, did he say yes? Did he walk out of the room? So that was one of those things. Yeah. Yeah. Any other facts that you noticed were missing as you were reading through the case?
I wanted to know if Webster had a drug testing policy. Again, this is the HR person in me because she was referencing probable cause drug testing. Well, you can't do probable cause drug testing unless you actually have a policy that indicates you're doing that. So that was, again, my HR hat saying, well, do they have that policy?
Yeah, very good one.
Well, just Richard, as a manager, what kind of training did he actually have? What were the expectations on Richard? How much was he supposed to know going in there and handling a situation like this?
That's another good one. One of the things that was a big gap for us as well was their absenteeism policy. Some of us work in organizations that have PTO where you have a set number of days, others have unlimited absenteeism. So was what he was doing, did it fall under excessive absenteeism? We had to make the assumption that yes. Any other things that you noticed that were missing? What assumptions did you